7th
The
Street?
trailer park's in pretty good shape, man, and he was asking about lighting and stuff. I said, how
Well,
much
we
you bring up?
just got it, though. That just got,
Oh, okay.
that's one of
Annex
the
in or
later,
something.
yeah, one of the later ones. So they haven't had it.
I know, I was like,
That's a different angle.
Under the sidewalk.
Yeah.
And I went over there
Oh,
and
yeah,
sometimes
because
you
that's
could
that
see
big
a
parking
lake.
lot, and that's Wildflower.
Stopped up at.
Well, yeah, thank you.
Monica's place, yeah.
Just probably waiting for you to call, to do the 5:25 call.
Oh, no. They're all gonna be late.
Oops.
If that's the case.
But that clock is slow, the clock is slow, and that's office is slow.
None of them actually. They joined the group with the microphone.
Good, how are you?
I mean, that one's probably 2 minutes, but still.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
5:27, do you think?
Oh, okay. Saving for later. There you go. And there will be one on that.
One more minute. Good evening.
Oh, and that'll be me next week, by the way.
These work?
this week.
I don't think he's too far.
The chair will call the March 5th, 2024 meeting of the City Council to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk Lesko, can you please call the roll?
Will do. Alderman Redpath.
Here.
Alderman Gregory.
Here.
Alderman Williams.
Here.
Alderman Rockford.
Present.
Alderwoman Purchase.
Here.
Alderwoman Notoriano.
Here.
Alderman Carlson.
Here.
Alderwoman Connolly.
Present.
Alderman Donlin. Alderman Hanauer.
Here.
Mayor Busher.
Present.
Mayor Busher, a quorum is present.
Thank you, sir.
Make a motion, we allow Alderman Donlin to be present by phone.
We have a motion and a second to allow Alderman Donlin by phone. Any discussion?
Debate.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Alderman Donlin, are you there?
I'm here. Thank you, everybody.
All right, you're welcome. First, I would want to wish all of the alderwomen and the treasurer and all of my female directors a happy National Women's
Month. Yes.
Yeah, so congrats to all the ladies. So.
We need to bring your daughters to council again.
All right. The civility pledge. In the interest of civility, I pledge to promote civility by listening, being respectful of others, acknowledging that we are all striving to support and improve our community, and understanding that we each may have a different idea for achieving that objective. The chair will now entertain a motion to dispense with the reading of the minutes of the February 20th, 2024.
So moved.
City. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion carries. The chair will now entertain a motion to incorporate the pre-council first reading of the remaining ordinances into the record of this council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. The chair will now entertain a motion to incorporate the pre-council reading of the consent agenda into the record of this council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. Motion carries. The chair will now entertain a motion to hold a public hearing regarding the extension of the special service area at Legacy Point as indicated in agenda item number 2024-051.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the public hearing? Seeing none, all those in favor of the public hearing, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The motion carries. The public hearing is now open. Does anyone in the chambers wish to address the council regarding agenda number 2024-051? If you do, just raise your hand. Any council members have any discussion on that? Okay. Seeing none, the chair will now entertain a motion to reconvene the regular meeting of the city council.
Motion to adjourn the public hearing and reconvene the council.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion carries. The chair will now entertain a motion to place the consent agenda on final passage.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, the voting is now open. All those in favor, please vote yes. All those opposed, please vote no. Alderman Donlin, how do you vote?
Alderman Donovan votes aye.
Okay, so the motion passes with 10 voting yes, none voting no. There are no agenda numbers remaining tabled or in committee. The next item on the agenda is item number 2024-032, an ordinance authorizing expenditures not to exceed $500,000 to the Springfield Project Community Access Project, CAP, 1908 for the acquisition of real property located at 1104 East South Grand Avenue and 1110 East South Grand Avenue in Springfield, Illinois. The chair will entertain a motion to place agenda number 2024-032 on final passage.
Madam Mayor, I would
Yes,
like.
sir.
I would like to introduce proposed amendment number 2. Shall I do that first or make a motion?
We need a motion on the ordinance first, I think.
Thank you. I make a motion for passage.
And can I get a second? A motion and a second. Now discussion. Alderman, go ahead.
I would like to introduce proposed amendment number 2.
Do you want to, this is your amendment, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you want to explain it to everyone?
Sure. This amendment, it just cleaned up some language from our last amendment I thought was in there as far as associated costs of redevelopment, including the engineering design of the final product. It also has language within it, and I probably should let Corporation Counsel explain it better than I.
Want him to take over?
Please.
All right. Corporation Counsel.
Sure. So based on our meeting with CAP 1908 yesterday, this amendment was put forth to address certain redevelopment costs, including engineering and design costs that are TIF eligible costs that are going to be requested as part of this $500,000. In addition, this proposed amendment would allow the redevelopment agreement to provide that payments are made directly to the contractor or into escrow as liability is incurred, as opposed to on a reimbursement basis. So this would be the city would be pay as you go, as opposed to reimbursing costs incurred and paid by the developer.
Any additional discussion, Alderman Gregory?
Yes, I only, the reimbursement portion, I know in our city code, the reimbursement portion is for, I think we've had this discussion before, but for $750,000 and above. So, to help this process be seamless as possible and quick as possible, I thought maybe this amending, along with advice from Corporation Counsel, would be the fastest and the easiest way to get this done.
Okay. So the discussion is on the amendment. So those signed up to speak, this discussion is currently on amendment number 2. Alderman Redpath.
So I guess that was part of my answer, but this does amend our rules. Is that correct, Corporation Counsel?
So we have not done this. This would allow for a type of payment that we have not done before. Our redevelopment agreements are currently on a reimbursement basis.
Thank you.
Any other discussion, Alderman Redpath?
Nope.
Alderwoman Conley.
That was my question. Alderman Gregory, I have a concern with that, with such a big policy change as in a floor amendment. And again, Dominic and Tony, I'm glad you're up here. It's a great project. I don't have any problems with any of that, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you do, but this is more than just a special consideration. This is us changing our TIF rules, the way we've operated on the floor tonight. I'm not comfortable with that.
Well,
Any other discussion, Alderwoman Conley?
That's
Sorry.
it. No, thank you.
Okay. Alderman Hanauer, you're signed up next.
Thank you. Corporation Counsel, are you aware on the 500,000 rule, or 750,000? I've always thought that no matter what, it was a reimbursement only. I didn't,
So so our TIF agreements have always been on a reimbursement basis. The $750,000 rule is referred to in section 37.34 of the code, and that does say that projects of $750,000 above are reimbursement development projects. But it also specifies that the reimbursement may take place only after the project has been completed and, if applicable, the product has been awarded, awarded a temporary certificate of occupancy. So that is a limiting factor, but all of our redevelopment agreements have been on a reimbursement basis.
so that was the Alderman Donlin, this was when Alderman Donlin brought that up in the past council, because we had got burned before, where we've given the money before people, there was no occupancy, and, you know, so, but so this would totally change it would be, we're just handing money over. We're not, there's no checks and balances.
So this would be a different procedure than OPED has done in the past. There would still be the checks and balances in the redevelopment agreement, where we would need the documentation and we would need proof, but the payments would be paid before or without payment by the person being awarded the TIF money.
Can you say that again, Greg?
So the redevelopment agreement would still have contractual language regarding the project scope, and that the expenses needed to be TIF eligible, but we would be making the payments without, or paying into escrow without them making the payments. And up until this point, our TIF agreements have all been reimbursement, where the payment needs to be made, we get an invoice showing the payment was made, and then those funds are reimbursed.
Alderman Hanauer, any other questions?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Alderman Carlson, your sign up next.
Corporation Counsel, you bring up a good point. I mean, and I'm a little bit familiar with TIFs. I mean, don't we have to follow some state law with TIFs? And to me, with this, are we making such a big change within an ordinance? Wouldn't we have to maybe, in my mind, pass another ordinance to make those changes?
So, yes, there are only certain TIF eligible expenses, and those are set out by state statute. As far as this contract is concerned, we have received a description of what these funds will be used for. We had a very good dialogue, and they're requesting TIF eligible expenses. But as far as your hypothetical, not dealing with this specific case, but moving forward, yes, we're going to have to do our due diligence, and this does open up the door for more requests as you go funding, and it would either, one, require a change in the ordinance, or two, you would see these requests come before council on additional TIF agreements.
Within an ordinance or within TIF agreements versus upfront making, the necessary changes or formats on the original TIF and how we spend that money.
Right, it would be an ad hoc basis from here until there's a change to our city code.
Thank you.
Alderman Gregory.
Yeah, so, so that, I think we've had a, discussion, time and time again about not only TIF expenditures, but other funds that we give. People have a hard time coming up with $25,000. So I do know that, some invoices have been given, and we've paid it. And, I just think that the code is clear as things over $750,000. This is not, I just think, to go through three steps, from us to Dom, or, and then to the actual buildings, they're just going to the buildings. That's more so what we're trying to accomplish here, is payments to the buildings as fast as possible.
Let me kind of do all the council members first, sorry.
I'm done. Thank you.
Alderwoman Conley.
Thank you, Mayor. Alderman Gregory, I understand what you're saying. I'm hearing this, and I'm not going to say the slippery slope, I know I just said it, but I don't like that concept. I am concerned, though, about making this kind of a policy change just like this, would you be willing to hold this and we, have planning and economic development kind of establish some sort of criteria that we could evaluate projects? I mean, again, this is an admirable project. I don't have a problem with that. I'm sure these are eligible expenses. I mean, looking forward to seeing this. My concern is what standards are we using to review future projects with this kind of criteria? And without a criteria, I worry that we'll have people coming in and saying, well, mine's a great project too, but I don't have money right now. I just, I'll put it up front. And I'm wondering if maybe we need to have a little more of a checklist or some sort of a guides of when we make this kind of a big exception. Would you be?
Go ahead, it's fine. She asked you a direct question.
Thank you. I want to
I know she
kind
has
of
the
get your
floor, but
thoughts
she
on
asked you a
this. Yeah.
question, so.
I just need a little time to think. I think with the mayor's permission, Dom and his council would like to address a few things, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, just one moment, please. Alderman Donlin, while you're on the phone, do you have any discussion you want to bring up before we let Mr. Watson and Mr. Shearing speak?
No, ma'am, thank you.
Okay, there we go.
Well, thank you. I'm actually defer to
Okay,
the attorney on this.
sure.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Good evening. Tony Sherring, Brown Hay and Stevens. I want to answer kind of a couple questions that came up in the discussion. First and foremost, under state statute, under the TIF Act, there is no requirement that it be strictly reimbursable. In fact, the statute is pretty flexible, and I can tell you with certainty that municipalities throughout the state utilize direct pay like this or escrow agents like this in this type of arrangement. So just from looking, starting at the highest level and then working our way down, state statute does not prohibit this. To Alderwoman Conley's point about a policy shift, I think the thing I would point out is that we're not asking for a major policy shift on behalf of the city. What we're asking for is, in this specific instance, that it be allowed to be paid to an escrow agent so that as the expenses are incurred, so for example, we're asking for money for property acquisition, which is a TIF-eligible expense. So if it's paid to an escrow agent, what that permits is, at closing, the money can be drawn on directly, as opposed to the Springfield project and CAP 1908 having to go out and get, in essence, gap financing and paying the financing costs associated with that. Instead, it can just be directly pulled from escrow. And to the point about checks and balances, I think an escrow agent addresses the checks and balances concern, because in that instance you have a disinterested third party who has a fiduciary duty to make sure that all of the conditions that are set on the escrow being released are in fact released. So this is different from other instances where, for example, we ask, a developer comes in and asks for an advance or asks for money on the front end. Here it would not be going to the Springfield project. It would not be going to CAP 1908. It would not be going to any affiliated entity. It would be going into an escrow account, and then the escrow, at closing, that money could be drawn on and paid directly to the sellers of the property. So it would not touch any bank account, any hand at the Springfield project. And so I think that addresses some concern about the checks and balances, because it is the exact same procedure that's used in real estate closings throughout the country. The other thing that I think makes this distinguishable from other types of projects is, first off, what we're asking that the money be used for, and second off, kind of the positioning of this project versus some of the other projects that have been causes for consternation. So here we're asking for money for acquisition, real estate acquisition, and professional services costs related to that acquisition. For example, a structural analysis. We want to buy the building and we want to hire an engineer to do the structural analysis. And so those are things that have to be done on the front end of the project. It's not an ongoing commitment, like if you're giving money to allow a vacant building to be renovated into apartments, as an example. Because in that scenario, it makes perfect sense. You wait until you've got a certificate of occupancy because then you know it's done. Here, these are kind of more front-end expenses that allow the later stage of the project to take place. And so I think that's part of what makes this unique. And I think the second thing that makes it unique is, as I mentioned earlier, this would not be going directly into the developer's pockets, for lack of a better term. It's going to be going directly to the sellers, it's going to be going directly to the service providers, and it doesn't touch us in that process. The other thing that I think makes this unique is the financing structure for the project. With this piece, with this third, it will be wholly funded with no debt. And that's significant because on other projects that you see where you have private financing play a role, you have interest costs that developer is going to incur no matter what. They're going to be paying on that mortgage no matter what. Here, you have none of that. You have no interest costs. You have no carrying costs related to the financing. And so by requiring this reimbursement process, you're introducing financing costs that wouldn't have otherwise been incurred into the process. And so just take this as an example. We're asking for $500,000. You know, I'm not a banker. I became a lawyer, so I didn't have to do math. But I know that there are going to be financing costs associated with that are going to be, you know, relatively speaking, somewhat substantial. You know, I don't think it's unreasonable to say that on a $500,000 bridge financing for 180 days, you could have $20,000 in costs related to closing, related to interest costs, just by borrowing the money so that we can be reimbursed. Now, the Springfield project has been around for a while. CAP 1908 is a newer project. It's a small nonprofit. It is a small project. You know, for some of the more mainstay nonprofits, having to come up with 20 or 30 grand for you know, an unplanned expense is not a big deal. For smaller nonprofits, it is. And so you've got a scenario where these unexpected costs would have to be incurred that wouldn't otherwise have to be incurred if we make this change in this one instance. And Alderwoman Conley, I think it is an excellent idea to have the city look at this on a global scope and see if there are projects where it makes sense or projects where it doesn't. I think that by any metric that, because I've spent a fair amount of time thinking about kind of the precedential effect of this, because I totally understand the concern. You know, by any metric, I think this is distinguishable from a for-profit developer coming in who is going to have debt financing as a part of the capital structure for the project. And for, you know, considering the types of expenses that are being incurred, because they're stuff that we're going to have to, it's things that we're going to have to incur on the front end as opposed to in the middle of the project. I think by any of those metrics, it's distinguishable from some of the other requests that the city may have gotten either previously or in the future for this type of request. And I've just rambled on for several minutes, so I'm going to stop and answer questions.
Alderman Redpath.
So I agree with you, Counselor, that, you know, the state statute deals with this differently than we do, but we've been burned several times.
Yes, sir.
And we put these rules in place because we've been burned. This is a good project. I don't think you're going to find many people who say that it's not a good project, but changing our rules just for one person is not the good idea. Having an escrow account set up and having those funds distributed is a unique idea. I'll give you that part. But the bottom line is that we've been burned too many times. And money used to flow out of this city hall without any recommendations, without any qualifications, without any responsibility whatsoever. Those days are over. This lady's here now. Those days are over. We're going to make sure we follow rules, and this rule needs to stay in place. It's important to us. I want to tell you, this is the difference between this is a lot of our projects have personal money involved in the front end. This thing's completely funded by different governmental units. Am I correct about that?
Almost solely.
Yeah. So that's just almost totally by public money. So this is completely different. I can't support a change in the rules. I'm gonna support the ordinance as it is, but I won't support the amendment.
Alderman Rockford.
Corporation Counsel, didn't we, and refresh my memory, didn't we start a escrow account maybe for Shield Sporting Goods, or the sports complex, Shield Sports Complex, or help me out, didn't we?
So we have an escrow agreement for in regards to the initial payment that's required under the second redevelopment agreement, and for future bond payments. But we don't have a TIF out there.
Okay, so it's apples to oranges, so to speak. I mean, it's not along the same.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
There's no TIF agreement with Shields.
Okay, thank you.
Alderwoman Notriano.
Yeah, I would just like to ask, what is the point of the CARES Act? What this money is coming from the CARES Act, correct?
No, from Far East TIF.
Okay. Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Never mind. Okay. Well then, I will move on with my next line of questioning. What is the criteria the escrow agent is going to make to issue the payments? Or, I'm sorry, what are they going to use?
Sure. So that criteria would generally be laid out in an escrow agreement. I think, generally you wouldn't close without, proof of title, proof of marketable title. There are, in theory, there's flexibility on what conditions can be set, but if the purpose of the funds is to acquire the property, then I think generally it kind of logically makes sense that the general conditions that you would put on that type of agreement of making sure that, the seller has authority to sell, the buyer has authority to buy, and that there's marketable title to be sold, makes kind of logical sense.
Sure.
Alderwoman, we would also have our standard TIF agreement requires a showing of funding for the project as a whole, and we've looked at their budget, but they would check the estimates, and it would also contain the standard requirements of one of our redevelopment agreements.
Okay. So this is not to transfer the money into escrow. This is to allow us to write the agreement that would transfer the money?
No. This would authorize OPED to actually put the money into escrow. So again, this project, we've authorized the funding before having the agreement in place and before having escrow, but this would be the last step council would need to take, and then this would authorize OPED to go through all the steps on the back end to get it in place. But this
Okay.
would authorize payment of that money.
Okay. And so the other way that we would do this is have them front the money, and we would reimburse them out of the TIF?
That's right. They would pay to acquire the building. They would show us a bill of sale or the closing documents, and then we would send them the money.
That's how we would do it without the amendment?
Correct.
Okay. So, I don't know. It seems to me like there's not a whole lot of controversy on this. It seems like all we're doing is, instead of asking them to go get the money so we can then reimburse them, we would give the money to an escrow agent, and then once they made the purchases, the escrow agent would pay the seller, correct?
That's right. We would put the money into escrow, and the sellers would receive that money.
Okay. So if you agree that the city of Springfield should use TIF dollars for them to buy this building, and if you agree that the city of Springfield should use TIF dollars for their architecture and engineering fees, then there is no reason you should not support this amendment to allow them to save some money in getting a gap loan. Thank you.
Alderwoman Conley.
Thank you. Mr. Schering, you mentioned that there are other communities across the state that use this sort of a model. an escrow account to pay upfront costs. So there's nothing really stopping us from finding a model with standards and reviews that we could apply across the board to other projects and then come back and do this. And again, I understand what Alderwoman Notriano says. I don't have a problem. I love this project. I have a problem with us making, and this is a big change. It is a big change from our established procedures, from the way we do this. I'd like to know more about how other communities manage this with an escrow fund up front and how that works for them, what sort of projects they apply, are able to apply under that kind of protocols. I feel like this is not the way I'm comfortable with changing our procedures and protocols. I would like to see, I would certainly be interested in what our professional staff, I mean, we have subject matter experts in this. Let them do some research on this. Let them come back to us with, this is how different communities do this, and I'm sure it works. I'm assuming it does. Actually, I'm not going to make that assumption. I'm not that TIF expert. I have other areas of expertise, and that's not mine. I would like to see what our subject matter experts say in a review of how other communities do this across the state, what suggestions and procedures we could implement so that this isn't the only project that we do this way. Because I think there are a lot of projects that may need this kind of an escrow model up front, but we don't have a standard to judge them by. And then I don't know, how do we, I'm tired of building airplanes while we're flying. I've done too much of that in the last 3 years, not in this so much, but professionally. And I feel like there's a good idea here and there's a good policy waiting to be written, but it's not in place yet. And so, yeah, I'm sorry, I can't support this amendment. I will support the ordinance, but I can't support this amendment. I'm sorry. I would be interested, Alderman, if we could hold it and see if again, our professional staff, we have subject matter experts who can bring this to us and explain it to us in a way that, no offense.
You trust them, I get it. It's okay.
I trust you too. I'm just saying, you're here advocating for your client,
Right.
and you make a very compelling case, and I understand your perspective. I'm just not comfortable with changing the rules as a floor amendment at a city council meeting.
Can I, if you don't mind, can
Yeah,
I just address a
if
couple
you
of these
go.
points? Thank you.
As long as the chair of the meeting doesn't mind, Mayor.
Madam Mayor, is that okay?
Just her question only. We have a bunch of others signed up to speak.
Thank you. So it's going to sound like I'm splitting hairs here, but I promise I'm not. We're not asking for a major policy shift. We're asking for this one exception for this one project. And the reason that, and one of the benefits, frankly, Alderwoman, is what Corporation Counsel alluded to earlier. This will still go through the approval process that any redevelopment agreement would go through. And so we're not removing some of, we're not removing.
I'm sorry, I'm going to disagree.
Okay.
That is too fine a hair to split.
Okay.
And I know split ends.
I don't.
That is a major policy change for us.
Okay.
We don't do that. We
Understood.
don't have standards to review projects under that kind of a payment model. So that is a major policy change for us. And I appreciate that you're trying. I appreciate where you're coming from. I'm sorry.
I understand.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Hanauer.
Thank you. One of the things I was just sitting there thinking that, we talked a couple weeks ago about wanting to be treated the same, right? And I respect that. And when we did I think back about when we did the current Chamber of Commerce building, the old church, we made them jump through a lot of hoops. I mean, it was delayed upon delayed upon delayed, and I know it cost the developers quite a bit more money because we continued to delay it, because we followed our processes. I don't agree and there was a lot of people there that would have liked for us to deviate from our processes, at the time. I don't agree to deviating from our processes. That's what we have our processes and rules for. And you know, it's not just them. There's been countless other people that have come up here and we've required them to follow this model. And, you know, I think we got even more strict after we got burned. And I think that we need to continue to follow this. And, you know, what's next? What do we, you know, the next person comes up and we're going to change another portion for that person. And we've got standards for a reason, and we need to keep them. If we want to sit down and have a discussion and try to, you know, maybe modify some of our TIF rules, so be it. But I don't agree but if we do it, it's for everybody, not just, you know, this guy comes in and he's got a good project and we're going to do this. And I'm talking TIF, you know, and I know people throw out the sports park. That's a completely different animal. It's a completely different one. And so, you know, that's my point. We've done this. We've followed this model with other groups, and I just don't think it's right that we would change it for one person, as you said. And I can't support it. I support the project, but I can't support this amendment. Thank you.
Alderwoman Notriano.
Thank you, Chair. Again, I would say if you support this project, if you support the purchase of the building, there is no reason for you not to support this amendment. It's just changing how we're paying for it. And when you look at the standards we have and how we've done it in the past, I would ask you, if you weren't leaving, I would ask you.
Alderwoman, please direct your comments to the chair. Alderwoman.
I would ask all my colleagues to think about what's the difference between this group, a nonprofit, and the other developers that you've been burned by. Have they been nonprofits? Are they opening up and currently serving the youth in their community? Are they coming to us for did they come to us for years previously and explain what they're going to do and show us every step of the way what this project is about? I mean, I know they've done this because you support the policy. It just does not make sense to me how you could not see that it benefits the city of Springfield to issue this money to an escrow agent and not have to go through hoops. Because I would say, if this amendment fails, please come back to us and ask for the charges for gap financing. I would like the city to be on the hook for whatever cost you incur for us not passing this amendment. I apologize. I am really, really fired up because a lot of people sitting around this horseshoe are thinking that you're not taking into account that this isn't any other private developer and this isn't any other part of the city and this isn't any other TIF. This is the southeast TIF. I'm sorry, not southeast, the east side TIF. And I mean, the point of this money is to help folks who need the money, right? We wouldn't be giving this money if they didn't need it. So it doesn't make any sense to me that if you think the city of Springfield should give the money for them to buy this building, I just don't understand why you would add a whole nother layer of hoops to jump through. This is not like every other situation that we've had. This is a special circumstance, a different kind of group. It's a nonprofit. Their project goals are different. To sit up here and equivocate and say that this group is just like all the other developers is dishonest. And I'll end with that.
Alderman Redpath.
I'd like to have clarification from Corporation Counsel on the ordinance itself. Is this ordinance for the purchase of buildings, and is it also for redevelopment? Because I thought we only passed this for the purchase of the buildings.
So the ordinance without proposed amendment 2, the ordinance that was discussed in committee of the whole, is for the purchase of 2 buildings. Now, when we met with CAP 1908, the purchase of the 2 buildings was not going to reach that level of funding. So proposed amendment 2 expands to engineering and design costs, so the full $500,000 that was being discussed to be authorized could be utilized at the property.
So back to some comments that were made here on this circle. Some people weren't educated enough to understand that this type of government is for this reason. It's because we got to make sure that we pay the taxpayers who we have to protect. And I'm voting for this project with taxpayer money because I think it's a good project. It has nothing to do with this amendment. It has to do with, I think you do good work over there. I'm going to vote for it. But I don't have to be lectured by anybody sitting on this city council on how we handled this thing in the past. I can tell you we've been burned by people that didn't deserve money. They got the money and they didn't have any criteria on how they're going to pay it back. They came to the city council and burned us. That's why we put these rules in place. We need to follow our rules. We need to make sure that we're doing the right thing for the taxpayers. This is taxpayers' money. So you tell them, come back when you find out what your extra costs are so we can dump some more money on the taxpayer. That's not the way this works. I have to protect my taxpayers. I know some people don't, but I do.
Please address
and the
me.
bottom line is that I'm gonna vote for this ordinance as it is and not for the amendment.
Alderman Williams.
You know, I've been trying to be good, but I'll just say Ward 6 stole a lot of my thunder. There are so many differences. And this thing with, let me ask you first, Corporate Counsel. So have we in Springfield ever voted contrary to the rules that we have on the books?
I don't know the history.
Okay, let me get specific. So no matter what kind of public money, TIF, it don't matter, our rules are our rules, and they claim, you know, we need to never violate them. When we had the sport complex, many debates, we did exceptions. We did things differently, or this is going to be the first time we did that, yes or no? Didn't we? Did we make exceptions to our rules and some of the policies that we have to move that along?
Well, I believe that we haven't extended a special service area. I know we've done a lot of extensions out there. I don't know what you're referencing to as being against our rules or policy, but I don't believe that I've authorized anything contrary to our rules.
Well, no. So I'm not saying you in particular. I'm talking to my council members. We have done these things before. For-profit versus nonprofit. The non-for-profit trying to do a good thing, they're held strictly to the rule and to the law. But the for-profit burned you. Who burnt us? In the previous, they're saying we've been burnt several times. Who were they?
He ain't been here long enough.
Can you use your gavel when we need to?
Alderman Williams, to answer that question, the times that we've been burned, since I've been here, we have ongoing and potential litigation, and I'm happy to discuss those clawback letters and that with you.
Yeah, so you can't talk about it. Well, let me just say this. I think it's unfair to hold others accountable because something happened way before they even asked. Or they have nothing to do with it. Their whole mission and what they're trying to accomplish is totally different. The biggest piece of this is most of them were for-profit. They gave us the problems that owe us and uncompleted. And the nonprofit is trying to do this good deed using money that's meant for that area. And then we always put rules in place, and then people ask me every day, why one side look better than the other, and why one side is doing better? It's because of these type of examples. Is it that we don't trust them, counsel? I mean, we don't trust them? Because I'm like Jennifer. If we really believe it's a good contract, and they've been working with Val, our professionals, our department. So you're acting like, you know, it got past your office. You can't vote on it. I realize that, but you see that this is workable. So I'm trying to ask the council, what are we so scared of? You've been burnt before, but it wasn't them. It was not this non-for-profit that did that to you, and we have to quit that, because that's why we can't never make a change over there, because we run into this all the time. We represent people that don't have money. Many of you guys, not all, but many of your constituents can afford to buy the building and do this first and do that and then get the rent. The honest to God truth is there's many organizations that I deal with every day that would do good things on the east side and for the east side. And Office of Economic Planning and Development stops them because of rules like this. We have to stop it. If those programs are meant to help the east side, let them help the east side. If you think you know Dominique and this young man well enough, we should trust them and give them a chance instead of holding them to the law. And it just bothers me that, we can never do nothing that breaks our law, because we have. We have. When we can go down the litany, but we'll be getting off track. I'm trying to keep us on this project, on this group that has come before us, and we shouldn't let, because developers downtown and other places have burnt us. That's unfair. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderwoman Purchase.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Dominic, what is the time frame on purchasing this building?
So without having the exact contract dates in front of me, I do know that we've already pushed back the closing date twice now.
Okay.
So the proposed close date for 1104 would be, I believe, May 1st. And if I'm wrong, don't hold me to that. And then the 1110 would be 2 months after that.
And have you went and talked to a financial institution about, because normally when banks hear that the city has money to do a reimbursement or refund, they're more receptive to giving a loan out. So have you talked to a financial institution, letting them know that you do have the support of the city and this may potentially have been moving forward for you to get $500,000?
Yeah, so there's no need to, at this juncture right now, to talk to a financial institution, because like I believe Alderman Gregory said, there is no gap financing needed. And so, I mean, we are going to exhaust our options regardless of the outcome today to ensure that the project gets done to the point of the horseshoe. You know, I think that that we are doing everything we can. We've proven that we're doing everything we can to get this across the finish line. We started 2 years ago at this point, and we're a third of the way there. And so this only helps us get 2/3 of the way there, and then eventually the project will be done. And so if you track our history, it illustrates that that we know how to go about the processes and do them in the most efficient way. And to the point about the Chamber of Commerce project, we were actually partners on that. So we're very, very much so familiar. It wasn't under my leadership. I was on the board at the time, but we were partners in that redevelopment project. But this is a different instance, and so I don't want to compare apples to oranges, but I understand what you were saying.
So I wanted to ask those questions just to have clarification for myself and my colleagues. And I definitely support your project, because I don't want to steal Alderman Gregory's thunder about this huge announcement that you just had that was, named statewide. But I have a non-for-profit in my downtown area that's struggling a lot too. And I don't want to open up a can of worms as I'm just listening to everybody in a dialogue and they come forward and ask for something, and it seems like there's going to be some confusion. Is this going to be like a case-by-case situation? So I do get a little bit where Alderwoman Conley is coming from when she asks for like a checklist, and that's why I was asking what is the urgency as to your closing date, because maybe this would give us just a little bit of time to put that checklist in so that some of my ward wouldn't come out and say, hey, I just saw this happen. We need some help too, and we need to come forward. So I do want to turn over to Alderman Gregory and ask him if I don't know if this is possible to do what Alderwoman Conley said before your closing date comes and still meet that deadline. That's,
I got a plan. I'm just waiting on everybody to
okay.
finish up.
That was it for me. I yield my time back over.
Okay. Alderman Gregory, you want to go after Alderman Redpath then? Okay, Alderman Redpath.
Yeah, he can go. So,
Over to
you
you,
know,
Alderman Gregory.
I respect everybody's opinion. You know, thank you to everyone who supports this project. And with this, I just think you know, for time's sakes, we've been on this for quite some time, but for time's sakes, I just think it's best that, that I strike that language about the escrow out of this amendment, and leave everything else. And the only thing else that's left in this amendment is the associated redevelopment costs, including engineering design, included in the $500,000. So,
Alderman Gregory, would you let me interrupt you for a minute?
yes,
Do you mind?
ma'am, absolutely.
So sitting up here tonight,
Sure.
was the first as the mayor, I saw the amendment.
Okay.
No one has called me or talked to me about it at all.
Okay.
Not the alderman, not Mr. Watson, no one.
Yes, ma'am.
I used to do finance for a living, those of you that do not know, so I'm very, very well-versed in this subject. Director Yeasel, can you please come up?
Thank you.
Alderman Gregory, if you will allow me to amend your amendment.
You could, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Director Yeasel, what I would like to do is amend the amendment to state that in lieu of, and the wording, I will tell you, as a banker, bothers me, that states that the funds could be given to the Springfield project or its contractor or the escrow agent. Alderwomen and aldermen, it doesn't just say an escrow agent. It has a very broad stance in it. So what I would ask for my amendment would be that the director would work with Mr. Watson and Mr. Shearing, if you're the attorney present at the closing. I don't know that you will be or not. That's up to Mr. Watson, but that you will work hand in hand with the closing agent, whomever that might be, whatever title company in town it is, that we get the HUD statement in advance and we get the money, we wire it, which, Mr. Watson, you are very familiar with this process because I did it with you when I was the treasurer.
I didn't want to say it.
I remember this. So we would wire the money from the city to the closing agent for you directly, so you don't have gap financing. So that would be my amendment, and then the additional costs would need to go through our proper channels of our redevelopment agreements and those sorts of things. Would that be acceptable to the alderman and to Mr. Watson is my question.
Absolutely, Mayor, because honestly, that was something that Dominic had told me. I didn't want to say it, that you know, I knew that we could wire it and stuff like that, so I apologize for not communicating that with you.
I will have a solution if you ask.
Leaning on your expertise, for sure. I'm in total agreement with it, so I guess I would be the second, and it's good to work with you on
So you'll second
this.
the
Your
amendment to the
absolutely.
amendment
Absolutely.
that we work, as Director Yeasel, is that okay that you work hand in hand with the closing agent? And we have to get the documents from the closing agent to the legal department in proper time, because that was an issue that we had in the past. I remember, Mr. Watson, the documentation didn't happen and give us enough time to get the wire out, and you and I were scrambling. And I told you I would hand deliver a check so you would not miss your closing. Do you remember that?
Yes.
We're very thankful.
Yes, so we would just repeat that process so you don't need interim financing.
That's all the whole thing.
That would avoid fees for you. Okay. Is that okay with you, Director Yeasel, with your agency?
Absolutely. I just want to have some clarity around, and I apologize because this has kind of been backwards. This whole process has been backwards. I had every intention of having a redevelopment agreement sitting on all of your desks this evening, because that's important to the Office of Planning and Economic Development. I don't ever want something coming forward without you seeing a redevelopment agreement. So we're going to have to work with the Corporation Council as to how to do the rest of that. Because as we all know, that every TIF agreement talks about funding 1/3 of a project. So I'm going to need expenses for $1 million if we're going to, however much that is with the closing costs. So we are going to still have to work through, there's quite a bit that we're still going to have to work through on that. And I will still make sure that all of you have a redevelopment agreement so that you can see.
So we have, my amendment would be that it is still the $500,000 from the East Side TIF.
I second that.
But we would work with Mr. Watson and/or his attorney and the title agent and the escrow closing agent and wire the funds, get the HUD statement from them for his exact purchase for both properties, wire the funds with the closing costs associated with that, so to the title company, and then we would work through the remaining monies with the redevelopment agreement, the TIF agreement, all those things. So that's my amendment, and then Alderman Gregory, you said you seconded it, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Mayor, We need a
Clerk
second.
Lesko.
We need a second for the amendment, the original amendment.
Oh, I thought Alderman,
He did.
Alderman Rockford seconded it for Alderman Gregory.
But not for the amendment.
Yeah, for the amendment.
Yes.
Yeah. So now the new amendment to the amendment would be Busher and Gregory. The first amendment that we're still on, we're amending the amendment.
Absolutely.
Alderman Rockford, do you want to third that amendment to the amendment?
I'd love to.
All right, great. That's fantastic. Okay, so discussion on the amendment to the amendment now. Alderman Redpath.
My question is a rules order, so I'll vote on the amendment before I ask my question, if I can.
Yes, sir. Alderwoman Conley, discussion on the amendment to the amendment.
Okay, well, Mayor, this is your administration, and if you're comfortable with that, I'll support it. I still ask that we have, and I like adding to Director Yeasel's plate because that's fun. I would still like to see what other communities do, and I think, Alderman Williams, to your point, we should have procedures in place so that people like this project, people who have projects like this can come forward and meet criteria so we can say, okay, we can give you upfront costs instead of a reimbursement model. If there are other communities that do that, I think that is an important addition that we as a council need to discuss. And I would very much like to see a proposal on that in short order too. Sure. And I'll let you rely on your excellent staff for that. But because Alderman Williams and Alderman Gregory have both made this point. There are a lot of people who don't have that money to get reimbursed. To be quite honest, I mean, I'm still paying off my roof, you know? It's expensive. It's expensive to undertake additions of projects like this. All I ask is that we have a way so that when Alderwoman purchases not-for-profits come in and want downtown TIF dollars, we have a criteria established. And if we base it off another community that has a functional program in place already, and our op-ed vets it and brings us something, I would appreciate that very much. Thank you.
So before I get to you, Alderman Hanauer, sorry, Alderman Rockford, the clerk is not sure that you did second the amendment
No,
originally.
you seconded the original passage of the ordinance. If you would like to second the amendment.
I'd love to.
Thank you, Alderman Rockford.
Now we're official. Thank you.
Alderman Hanauer.
Thank you. Can someone please, I'm confused right now, and what are we striking from the amendment, and then what are we adding?
So I would personally strike the line that says, "The Office of Budget and Management is hereby authorized to make a payment in the amount of $500,000 to the Springfield project or its contractor or its applicable escrow agent pursuant to the terms and conditions of the TIF redevelopment agreement," which there isn't a redevelopment agreement yet. So I would strike that out. And in place of that, we would put that we would wire the purchase price plus the closing costs to the closing agent for the purchase of the two properties, which are 1104 East South Grand Avenue and 1110 East South Grand Avenue. And then the remaining monies, you will get a redevelopment agreement from OPED to work with Mr. Watson on that.
Okay. Thank you. And then
Thank you.
so going forward, is this something that we're going to look at for all TIF then?
So I know we're in discussion, I had asked Director Yeasel to put together a presentation to the council that they would do before a meeting on TIFs, because I think that would help with rules and regulations. I'd also asked Corporation Council to put together an ordinance that we would specify the rules and follow them. So that would hopefully make it clearer for all in the future.
All right, because one of my concerns is I don't like, as I stated before, we need something that's the way we do things. Everybody knows that's the way we do things and going forward. And if this needs to be added, that's great, but I don't want it to stop here. I want this added to the way we do TIFs, and I don't know what kind of burden it's going to do to you and your staff, but it is something that needs to be considered.
I agree. And I don't know this to be true, but I am an assumption that had the federal government passed a budget and CAP 1908 had gotten their $1 million that was earmarked, that we may not even be here today having this discussion. I don't know that, but
Right.
that's my assumption.
Yeah.
Okay, any other discussion on the amendment to the amendment? So Clerk Lesko, will you do a roll call vote to the amendment to the amendment?
Will do. Alderman Redpath.
Aye.
Alderman Gregory.
Aye.
Alderman Williams. Alderman Rockford.
Aye.
Alderwoman Purchase.
Aye.
Alderwoman Notriano.
Aye.
Alderman Carlson.
Aye.
Alderwoman Conley.
Aye.
Alderman Downline.
Aye.
Alderman Hanauer.
Aye.
10 ayes and no nays, Mayor.
So the amendment to the amendment passes, so it was the amendment. Now you're going to vote on the ordinance as amended, ordinance 2024-032.
You need a motion.
We have to
So
do
we
the
need a
amendment
motion
now.
for the amended order.
We need a
Motion
motion
for
on
the
the amendment.
So now we amended.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Amended ordinance. So moved.
Amended amendment.
Alderman Gregory, would you like to make a motion for the amended amendment?
Motion,
Alderman Rockford seconds. We'll just do a roll call vote on the amendment to the amendment then. Sorry, Corporation Council.
No problem here. All right. Alderman Redpath.
Aye.
Alderman Gregory.
aye.
Alderman Williams. Alderman Rockford.
Aye.
Alderwoman Purchase.
Aye.
Alderwoman Notriano.
Aye.
Alderman Carlson.
Aye.
Alderwoman Conley.
Aye.
Alderman Donlin.
Aye.
Alderman Hanauer.
Aye.
10 ayes and no nays, Mayor.
Okay, so now we need a motion for the amended amendment and the ordinance 2024-32 to be passed.
Ordinance as amended, so move.
Second.
First and a second, any discussion? Alderman Redpath.
My point was for clarification on the redevelopment part of this. Do they have to come back with a different PLA for that? They're getting the purchase money for the buildings, but we were talking about redevelopment stuff. Does that have to come back in a different form?
Right, so as written, no, because this has been, this is made, well, I guess if we struck that entire sentence, then OBM would not be authorized to make that final payment. So they would need to come back. There need to be an authorization of payment that comes back.
So that will come in front of the council again?
That would, but the OPED would be authorized to execute a redevelopment agreement in the interim.
And Director, that's what you were talking about, working with him on that? Okay. I just want to make sure we're clear on that.
Yes.
Any other questions, Alderman Redpath?
No.
Alderman Carlson.
Quickly, still learning the process, but I know we've talked about, does this require, or do we need a fiscal analysis on this at all? Or is that a requirement on this, or is it already just the 500,000 that we're spending?
Right, yeah, and again, like I said, this is kind of backwards, so I would have done that up front. That would have been, something that we would have vetted, with an application up front. So it's kind of backwards, but it's fine.
You're okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other discussion on the ordinance as amended? Seeing none, the voting will now be open. All those in favor vote yes. All those opposed, please vote no. Alderman Donlin, I'm sorry, I didn't ask you if you had discussion. My apologies.
I do not have further discussion, and I vote aye, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So the motion passes with 10 voting yes, none voting no. I apologize, Alderman. I should have asked you if you had discussion. Do you have anything else you would like to add, Mr. Shearing or Mr. Watson?
I just want to say thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. This is a project. We will not let the city down on this, and we'll continue to do the great work that we're doing in the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Good job.
The next item on the agenda is item number 2024-054, an ordinance approving the reappointment of Michael Lellis to the Board of Managers of Oak Ridge Cemetery. The Chair will enter. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that item? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please vote yes. All those opposed, please vote no. Alderman Donlin, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Alderman, okay, so the motion passes with 10 voting yes, none voting no. The next item on the agenda is item number 2024-077, an ordinance accepting bids and authorizing contract UE 24-08-50 boring at Capitol Avenue Railroad Crossing with Asplund Construction LLC in an amount not to exceed $173,075 for the Office of Public Utilities for emergency passage. The Chair will entertain a motion to place agenda number 2024-077 on final passage.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second, and for discussion, Alderman Rockford.
Yeah, Doug, can you kind of explain what's taking place here? And I guess I'll let you explain and then I'll.
Yeah. So basically for the rail project, we have to relocate some utilities. So they did some initial design work, bid it, came back, bids too high, then they wanted to do another redesign and then bid it out. And basically, the time schedule is being crunched because they need to be finished. I can't remember the exact dates, but they need to be finished by a certain date to not delay the contractors on the rail project. Otherwise, they'll see a bigger expense to Public Works on that side of it if we can't get the work completed in time. That's why it's an emergency passage.
Any other discussion? Alderman Donlin, do you have any discussion on the emergency passage item?
Thank you, Doug.
No, ma'am, thank you, and thank you for the explanation prior to the meeting.
Okay. So seeing none, the voting will now be open. All those in favor of the motion, please vote yes. All those opposed, please vote no. Alderman Donlin, how do you vote?
Aye.
So the motion passes with 11 voting yes, none voting no. The next, that's the end of our agendas. Are there any unfinished business from the council members to bring forward? Alderwoman Conley, you're saying so I think you have something.
Thank you. I'm gonna, I don't know if this technically is unfinished or new business. And Alderman Gregory and I mentioned this, that there is an item on first reading dealing with Republic's yard waste contract. Just want to let you know that I have dealt with an alarming increase of contacts from my constituents who have not gotten their yard waste collected. It's not, and these are not people who contact me on they missed me this week. It's been, the yard waste sat out for weeks. So if not next week, I hope, because I'll be sitting in Alderman Donelan's seat next week, but I would like to request that Republic have someone come to the council meeting and discuss this, because there were some, this is a significant uptick in people complaining about their yard waste sitting out. The bags have gotten, with everything we've had, they got snowed on, they got sun, they got rain, sleet, and then rolling down with the wind. So it's a big mess. It's caused a significant amount of concern in my ward, and I'm pretty sure I'm not the only person who's dealt with that. So definitely want to make sure that Republic has their representative at our full council meeting on that issue. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderwoman Purchase.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I had just pressed the button right after you to say that I had a young lady 2 days ago call, and she said her garbage hasn't been picked up in 3 weeks now. And I asked her, who did she speak to over there? Because, sometimes people say, oh, I didn't get a phone call from this person. So I asked her to go back over to Republic Services, make sure that her house is in the system for them to come and pick it up. But it's just been an influx of people texting, showing pictures of their trash not being picked up. And, I feel some type of way, because Republic Services came in to talk to us, and they tried to put a hint in front of us that we had something coming. And then all of a sudden this change was made and we wasn't made aware of it. And so I hope that same CEO is coming before us to listen to all the concerns that we have.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Any other aldermen or alderwomen have unfinished business? Seeing none, does anyone have any new business? Alderman Gregory. Sorry, Alderman Williams, we'll go to you first.
He may be senior, but he's going to wait. I appreciate Ward 8 and this thing with looking at what others do, because when I became alderman, I had the largest TIF. And I believe, she's out the room with Dominic and them now, I believe I still do. And it was a fat TIF. There's money there. And it was because of rules and people not being able to afford to use it. So that in that district, the businesses have done what they supposed, the TIF grows every year, and there's no utilization of it because of things like we kind of ran in tonight. So I want to join you, Aaron, in hopes that we can eventually find other ways to help it easier for people to touch that TIF, so that it doesn't stay so high. It's significantly larger than others. Let me say it like that. And anytime a neighborhood TIF is bigger than the downtown TIF, that tells you something right there. But I think it goes to what people can afford and what people can't afford. So I appreciate that the subject came up. Mayor, want to say I hope we don't just walk away from it, that we actually do take a look, is what I was going to say to the director. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Alderman Gregory.
I just wanted to say, It was a few weeks ago, Franklin Middle School did win the state title, and I don't want to miss that, man. Alderman Hanna was just talking basketball in the back, so that came to my mind. So we do congratulate them, and fantastic job, and so I just wanted to make us aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Alderwoman
And,
Conley?
yeah, I'm sorry, Mayor, we were going to bring them in, and then I think there was a break, or,
Yeah. We can
Yeah.
still bring them in if you have
I think
contact.
I would
No, I
like,
just
I'd
wanted to say
really like to bring them in
congratulations.
and recognize them, yeah.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
I always enjoy seeing Alderman Gregory get his picture taken with basketball kids.
They bigger than me, trust me.
Alderwoman Burgess.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to commend your staff, Director Fuchs, Director Posey, Chief of Staff Mike Disco, TJ Heaviside. Me and Alderwoman Conley met with our constituents with this new map, and we had a contentious situation, and your staff came out, and we were able to work it out, following up with another meeting because I'm still learning new things. We have a code that is kind of not being enforced, but it's something that just has happened so long ago, way before your time, and it's something that we have to address. But the fact that both neighbors on Alderwoman Conley's side and my side appreciated that your staff was there and addressing it, and I just want to give them kudos for that.
Thank you for that.
So thank
And
you.
Mr. Watson, I think I'm seeing you in 2 weeks, right, for your big announcement? Okay. He's going to be back before you all. so,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, we appreciate
So-
your support.
Any other new business? All right, seeing none, those who signed up to address the council in advance, Jason Youngberg. Is Jason here? No. Alice Ramey. Why did you look deflected?
You don't have to come up.
You can sit there talking.
You don't gotta come.
I was just thinking about what I learned today at the Capitol. Sorry. Hi, Mayor. Hi, Alderman. I'm going to go along, hi, hon. How you doing? I know you're learning to fight. That's pretty good for you.
It wasn't me. That wasn't me. It wasn't me.
I'm glad you brought up Republican. I have been telling people about that for the last 4 or 5 years, that they do not do their job properly, and people won't listen. Well, they don't. There's still garbage that has to be picked on Livingston and the rest of them, and they don't pick up the waste, they don't pick up the leaves, they don't pick up anything that they are required to pay. And I understand we pay them a lot of money. I don't know what Waste Management is doing. I don't know if they just don't have the time or don't want to work. You understand? But it's not the only problem I have. I have a house on Poplar Avenue that is raising fight dogs. They got loose the other day, and if it wasn't for my nephew that knows how to handle fight dogs, my dog would get hurt, and I would too. So I do believe we need to have somebody talk to them or something, because it is getting bad over there. I have already talked to the Public Works guy about the garbage that's in that house too, and also what they're doing. They burn 3 or 4 times a week, and I had to have the firemen out there. But they're not burning now. I don't know what happened. But the dogs are fighting, they're breaking out, and they're looking for other things to bite. They did kill a cat that was going to have babies, and it's not right. We need to make people accountable for what they do. I don't care if it's $1 or $900 or 40 days in jail. They need to be accountable for everything they do, because it's not right. I took a fire truck off of a job that they could have probably done if something happened at that particular time. That's not right. That's not right. We have rules in this city, no burning. And it's got to stop. It has to stop. They have to have tickets. They have to come to court. They have to get what they have to do and pay it. I mean, that's the only way it's going to stop. And I never did like Republic because they never did the job right. Half the garbage should still be on the ground and things like that. Waste Management was the same way. I've been doing that for 5 years. As you know, you were sitting over there when I talked about them. I wouldn't pay them a dime until they do their job. And that's the way I feel about it, and I'm sorry. And thank you for bringing it up, Arlen, okay?
If you'll stay put, Alderman Williams has signed up. He might want to speak to you.
So, yeah, my question is on the animal and animal control. because this comes up often up here, as well as when I'm dealing with it in the community. Really, I wonder if we're coming to the right place to complain about it, because it's Sangamon County Animal Control. Now, we do give the money that you great tell me that, you know, that supposedly is part of their budget or whatever. I wanted to do a new one and all that, but that's all water under the bridge. We got this to deal with. The chief of staff, I had to turn over a situation to him with one out on Converse. You know, where the lady told me, I'm going to kill it and put it on the mayor's porch. You know, so
I have a ring doorbell, that's a bad idea, we'll turn it on.
So I think people are angry, you know, are angry about some of these animal situations. However, I don't know if this is the right body, and maybe you can help me, Mayor, or corporate counsel, that they should be coming to complain about animals.
So we do contract with the county for our animal control. So they're the ones who will be called, who are supposed to be going out to those calls.
That didn't answer my question, or it did no good. Should she be telling us or telling the county? Or the county board, or something like that?
Alice, did you call animal control?
I have called animal control, and I'm only about 4 blocks from where they're at. I went there too and told them, it's this way, okay? When you call a Sangamon County board coming and want to talk to them, they already know. I got big enough mouth to tell that, okay? I also have called the cops on them. One of the guys came out and he saw what they were doing to the dogs, okay? And it's not right. They're making them mean, and they're supposed to be hunting dogs. They're not fighter dogs. That's what they told me. I have called the county. I have called the dog pond. I even went out there and talked to the dog pond. There is not, they say they got 2 trucks that can go around and do what they have to do. At one time, they had a truck 24 hours a day on call on the weekends.
So
Okay, they may not get a call, but yet they're on call. What happens to their, I don't think they manage people very well. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, but we can't control animal control, so I recommend reaching out to the county board, because they're
I
the ones.
understand that, but if the county board isn't going to listen to any of us, then what are we going to do, stand out there and shoot them? Although I would love to target practice, but that's beside the point. You understand what I'm saying? Somebody has to put a stop to it. And you're the one that, the city council in this big horseshoe that was voted by the people that are getting in trouble with these dogs, then why aren't we getting it? Sorry, Mr.
Alice, who's your county board member? Alice, call your county board member.
Huh?
Who's your county board member?
Oh, shoot, what is her name? Anyway, I've talked to her about it.
Ms. Vera.
I have, even in our meetings. It's not working. Nobody's listening. I guess they would listen if I shoot them and hang them up in the...
Could we not talk about shooting anybody or anything in this council chambers?
I mean, seriously.
I'm sorry, no, but Alice, let's not do that, okay?
It doesn't matter. People want to shoot them. You know,
No,
I mean,
you just-
Okay, I
you know,
think
Can we
we should
stop?
end this.
and
the
I'm
shooting
sorry for it.
conversation. No, it's fine, yeah.
Just because people do not do their job.
Thank you. The next person signed up to speak is Beth Rogers. Ms. Rogers? No? The next person signed up to speak is Lynn Wilson. Is there a Lynn Wilson?
Don't they know Illinois and Purdue's playing?
Pardon me?
I appreciate the opportunity to talk on the subject of non-citizen migrants. First, I want to show you a couple of things. This is my driver's license. I do not take this lightly because I don't just go down there and get a vision test and plunk my money down. First, I must make an appointment with the TSA. They send this information to the FBI, where I have an extensive background and mental health check. And then they will allow the Secretary of State to take the test. And I would just like to say on my job that not too long ago, there was an incident on the highway where my coworkers were put in jeopardy. Now, I don't know the status of this person driving this large truck, but it almost resulted in a fatal incident. If it hadn't have been for one of our drivers that was alert and alerted our other workers. Now, this citizen, I don't even, or non-citizen, I don't know if he had the proper credentials to even be driving this vehicle. My next identification is my firearms owner ID card, and it also doubles as my concealed carry. Now, if you don't know, you have to go through initial background check and mental health check. And then my Illinois State Police has my fingerprints on file. But I would just like to say that these people that are coming across the border are not having any, they're not vetted in any way. Fiscal year to date, there's been about 6,000 criminals have entered this country illegally. And I'm not just talking about coming in here without going through the proper procedures. We're talking about real criminals who have murdered, raped, assault. And I would just like to say that this year, ICE arrested a Haitian national for allegedly raping a developmentally disabled person in Boston. On January 27th, a large group of illegal aliens viciously attacked NYPD in the Times Square area. On January 30th, a man impersonated a package delivery person to trick his way into a home in Minneapolis, Minnesota. He demanded money, then shot 3 people in the head in front of 2 children under 5 years old that were present in the house. And I'm sure you've heard the story of Laken Riley, a University of Georgia student, was brutally murdered. That suspect was not a U.S. citizen. The northern border also faces a disproportionately high number of crossings by people on the United States terror watch list. Official figures reveal on February 1st, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement reported the arrest of a Honduran national and member of the notorious 18th Street gang after he tried to re-enter the United States following 6 previous deportations. I'd like to point out that illegal immigrants arrested for drug smuggling are not deported. Rather, they are processed through the local criminal justice system. They are rarely transferred to the federal justice system. And these people, this burden is put on the locals who have to pay out of their tax money medical services, autopsies, burials, and any necessary care for them. It affects the workload of law enforcement, criminal justice, and emergency medical systems. I would propose that you entertain a motion to severely restrict those that are non-citizens until you have a good plan to not only take care of them, but also to finance them. And then, in conclusion, I would like to say, please consider this before a tragic happens in this city.
Thank you. Are there any other citizens in the chambers that wish to address the council? Yes, sir. Please come forward.
Okay.
You're done. So, my name is Robert Frazier. I'm the executive director.
Hold on. You can
He's okay.
sit.
You can stand.
All right.
They're buddies, I think.
Good to see you, Martin. Good to see you.
I think they're friends.
Oh, sorry.
My name is Robert Frazier. I'm the executive director of Clean Slate Advocates. I guess tonight is the night of non-for-profits. We've got a serious issue, serious problems in Springfield with the issue of people that can't afford to live. Our initiative focuses as a 501c3 approved non-for-profit by the IRS. We service laundry and linen needs for the community. Many of you have heard about us. and some probably haven't. I'm here to say that our program for the month of February, we processed 446 customers with an average load, laundry loads of 32.5. Total loads for the month would be 14,495 loads of laundry for people in the community. And by the way, we cross all your wards. Where we got people come from the east side, west side, it doesn't matter. People have a need, and laundry and linen services is something that they need, and they're taking advantage of the program. We offer free laundry and linen services for anybody who's struggling with finances and things of that nature, and they can't afford to clean their own laundry, which is a big issue in District 186 in the school, and then just normal people with just regular jobs that are struggling with their cost of home, utilities, gas, and all these things, and kind of laundry takes a back seat. We've noticed a definite increase in our numbers. CSA is expecting over 100,000 laundry loads per month here in the near future, probably as it continues to warm up. April, May, we will exceed over 1 million loads of laundry in a 12-month period. We need some help. We need finances. To the tune of the appropriated investment based on our charge of $12.50 a load, which that provides laundry, wash and dry services. We provide soaps, bleach. We provide dryer sheets. We provide bags to bag up your laundry. We've appropriated investment for just this month is over $180,000. We're not a rich company. You're talking about our company supports all-in-one laundry services is the main component of these services are being done. This is not my forte. I never stood up here before, but it's important, and it's a need, and we need some help. We're looking at a situation where we are considering maybe pulling the program just because it's huge. If anybody has any questions, we're looking for donations. I have no idea how TIF works. Talked a little bit with the alderman about it. I don't know what kind of services, but I'm here to raise the alarm about what's happening in the community on the ground level that maybe you don't see. And we do believe that laundry is not a privilege. Laundry services is not a privilege. It's a right that everybody deserves to have clean clothes. And that's what we do. Thank
Can you stay there, Mr. Frazier, please? Alderman Williams wants to speak.
Yes, thank you for coming, and thank you for what you do. I mean, until I experienced it, I really didn't understand it, but I just had a couple of questions. One is, so this started during COVID, this program?
No, the all-in-one laundry services was actually purchased that building just before COVID, 6 months prior to COVID. This program, as you well know, when you file to receive your 501c3 status, is not something that happens overnight. And this was a long time it took for us to get to this point where we were helping people out of the goodness of our heart. Now we needed to do it through a 501c3 to show so that our accountants and everybody could make sense of them why we're always broke.
Okay. Well, you know, so I learned something. It wasn't COVID driven really, but then I also learned when I observed and went that these are just some of everybody, not just the homeless, but just regular families and things like that. So if you're asking for some help financially, would that be for inventory or something, or water? Or
actually, you know, our just to offset our cost for the whole program. Obviously, you know, water, electricity, all of those things are a must. We employ people to help people. We train people. You believe it or not, people that come into the laundry center really don't know how to wash their clothes for some reason. So we spend the time. We have staff on hand that kind of walk them through it and assist them in any needs that they have. So there's a lot of different components to the ask.
Okay. Well, I'll just say, I think, I'll assist or help in any way I can. I think it's a good thing, even if it's in Ward 2. But I just saw the people and saw the needs being met, and I think you're doing a great job, you and your staff over there. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Alderwoman Conley also wants to talk to you, Mr. Frazier.
Thank you, Mr. Frazier, for what you do. It really is, it's huge. So I have to tell you, one of the best jobs I had in college, I worked in a laundromat.
Really?
Yeah,
Great.
I did. It was
Come on
great.
over. We need your help. You can volunteer too. We're looking for that.
Actually, I was going to ask about that, but one of the things you said really resonated with me, because even then, I saw this, that people don't know how to actually do laundry well, and clothing things can get ruined really quickly. So I'd love to follow up with you, after the meeting, and come over and visit and just learn about kind of what you're doing. But I want to just say again, thank you, because you're right, that's not something that's optional. It's really critical that people have clean sanitary clothing and bedding to use. And what you do with this is really huge for the community, for our entire city, and we thank you very much for that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
We do believe that it really helps along with the health initiative also. Clean clothes, if you don't have them, they burn a lot of viruses and different things like that, and you'd just be astonished by the number of people that come in with mold and different things, different issues. Yep.
Will you share with everyone the address of All-in-One so they know, please?
Yes, the address of All-in-One Laundry Services is at 801 South Grand East, Springfield, probably about 5 or 6 blocks from here, up on South Grand Avenue. South Grand Avenue East, 801 South Grand.
No.
Thank you, Mr. Frazier.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other citizens in the council chambers that wish to address the council? Seeing none, I would take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second? Do I get a second, please?
Yeah, I second it.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
We are adjourned. Sure, and I'll work with you on that if you need me to. So people know what happened.